Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Sporting160EN Podcast. This is episode number 23, and I'm joined by the returning and always going to be on the panel, Patrick. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. You?
I'm doing fine as well, and we're here with a special guest. We have Christian. Christian, how you doing, bro?
Doing all right, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Welcome on. Christian's been a very avid follower on Twitter and other podcasts. So, yeah, man, thank you for supporting us and all of that. And glad that you're on the podcast today. Quickly, we're just going to talk about the Estoril game, the Santa Clara game, and then towards the end, we'll get to like team news and the modalities. Though I have to admit, I have to still look up some that didn't have time this weekend. But anyways, let's just jump right into it. Estoril, Sporting faced Estoril at home for Taça da Liga. Our starting 11 was Roman Salan in net. We had Marcelo and André Pinto at center back, with Jefferson and Bruno Gaspar at fullback. And then we had Petrovic and Budelli in the middle. Wendell making his first start of the season, with Carlos Mané and Diaby out on the wings and Bas Dost in the middle. Patrick, I'll throw it to you first. What did you think of the game?
It was terrible. Under Pizarro, you sort of saw performances like that coming, because even with his strongest team, he never really found that rhythm with his best players. So if he's mixing and matching and bringing new bodies into the plans, then you sort of expect a little bit more of a disjointed performance, and that's what Sporting got. But we were winning, obviously, for a large portion of the game, and I just wonder whether, in addition to Sporting not being so cohesive in the way they play, I just wonder whether the fact that they were playing a lower league team, so to speak, still a solid second division team, probably will be looking to bounce back. But in the mind of the players, I just wonder whether they thought I was a second division team and took their eye off the ball, and obviously ended up paying a price. It's something that could happen against the Lords. Sporting led throughout the entire game, but towards the end things looked a little ropey. And then obviously the partnership at the back, André Pinto and Marcelo, they're both two good players in my opinion, but I don't think that as a partnership has really solidified. So, a game that showed lots of flaws on Sporting's behalf, and again, whoever picks up from Pizarro has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, definitely. And Christian, what did you think of this game?
Obviously, as Pat said, it was really bad. A lot of players performed, super poorly. To be fair, it was a completely rotated team. The attendance was pitiful. There's like 8,000 people there. It's a Wednesday night at 10:15 kickoff or 9:15 kickoff, which is not going to do much to draw the people out, especially when you're playing Estoril as well. And the fans weren't like feeding off the team at all. There was whistles, galore. I actually thought it was pretty funny. Right at the end of the game, right when the ref blew his whistle, they were just getting whistled off the field, and the stadium sound guy quickly put on the Sporting anthem to just kind of like drown out the whistles. But you could hear it. It was bad. And we did lead for a lot of the game. Kind of scored a shit goal at the beginning. Terrible turnover, but nice shot by Wendell. He won the ball back as well. But yeah, I saw it coming. I definitely saw the equalizer coming, but to concede 2 in 10 minutes and lose the game is even worse than I thought it was going to be. And he pretty much puts us in a terrible position to get out of the group, even in the Taça da Liga. If we would have at least tied that game, we'd have a decent chance. We would control our own destiny. All we'd have to do is beat Fidesz and we'd be through. But now we need other results and we have to win. So not good all around.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was actually just gonna look up because I also seen somewhere saying that if we beat Fidens, we're fine. But I think, yeah, I think it depends. If Estoril goes crazy, I guess, and slaps Marítimo more than we beat Fidens. If we do beat Fidens, then yeah, we definitely have something to worry about with Estoril. Okay, quickly, just for our first question, Wendell, what did you think of his first start? At least this season, I think he started last season at least once, and his first Sporting goal. And really, should he be a starter for this team? Christian, I'll start off with you on this one.
Obviously the answer to this question might have been a bit different, before yesterday, but we've lost a key starter, I would say. I know a lot of people have varying opinions on him, but he for sure is a solid defensive midfielder. So I think that what's likely going to happen is Goudelli is going to end up sitting in at that sixth spot, and we're going to have another midfielder in there in the center. I don't think Acuna is the best fit for that spot. I think that as far as the game against Estoril is concerned, he got subbed out in the 50-something minute. A bit premature in my opinion.
Yeah, it was like the 67th, I think.
Oh,
yeah, 67th. Same shit though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was playing, that bad to kind of warrant the substitution at that point. But yeah, I mean, I thought he played well in the first half for sure. And yeah, I don't know if he's ready to start per se, right away, but he's gotten 0 minutes or 10 minutes. He's barely played at all in the league. He definitely deserves a chance. There was that weird thing a couple weeks ago where he allegedly got an excused absence to go to Brazil, but then he was late coming back, so he was with the B team training. He's had a roller coaster of a time at Sporting since he's come over.
Yeah, which is sort of I think why most of the fans sort of were so overjoyed when he scored. I think he's been topsy-turvy for sure.
Kiss the badge, man. That's
exactly.
If I were him, I probably wouldn't kiss that badge, but I mean, I guess that means he wants to be here. So
yeah, no, for sure. It shows the sign of intent. Patrick, quickly, your thoughts on Wendell as well, and how you seen his his first start this season, and do you think he should continue starting or at least have a role off the bench?
Well, yeah, definitely. I think he has a role within the first team, the 18 men that go to the match day week in, week out. Whether he starts, I don't know. He's certainly a very talented player who has to show a certain degree of work ethic in training and whatnot. I guess that was the complaint by Peseiro, that he didn't see enough from him in training for him to start. And football, that's the basics. You've got to put the effort in training and then turn out on match day. But he has a new opportunity now. He's got this goal under his belt and an okay performance. It's difficult to judge, obviously, because Sporting did play so poorly in my eyes. But he's got this performance with him, and with a new manager coming in, new ideas, it's an opportunity for him to start all over again and to hopefully impress, because he is a very talented player, and I think he's someone who has a lot to give in the box-to-box role, as well as maybe even playing deeper.
Yeah, I agree. And then another return was Bas Dost coming into the lineup. I mean, again, Patrick, sort of like you said, it was such a poor game that we can't really judge Bas Dost's. We can't judge his performance too much, but how did you think of his first game back from injury? Do you think he did all right? Do you think there's still, I don't know, maybe some dust he has to brush off a bit? And how did you think of Bas Dost for his game? Because he did also help out Wendell with that first goal, so there were some positives to his game.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you get with Dost. He's a tall striker, but he's also an intelligent player, and he definitely has some cobwebs that he needs to blow out, and that will come with time. He's been out for a long period and a difficult period as well, because it's just at the start of the season, and he himself wouldn't have been fully fit alongside all the others. But, in terms of fitness, other players have progressed and come deep into the season. And he has to start all over again. So it will be difficult for him for a little while. We won't have Dost at peak form, but, with time, he'll be able to settle in fine. The thing with Dost is what we discussed last week, whether or not he's the ideal man for Sporting to lead the line, or whether he's someone who requires a different combination up top. Before him, we obviously had Freddie Montero, who, of everything that Peseiro managed to construct, I think Montero's combination with the wingers was probably the best thing that Sporting had going. And again, I find it very difficult that Dost will be out of the team. But for sure, it's something to think about. If Sporting are playing better with one striker than they would with the other, irrespective of who actually is the best striker out of the two, it's just something for us and the new manager to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, I'll go to you with this next one. No doubt, Andre Pinto had a terrible night. He was at fault for both goals. The second one being an own goal. The first one, he was muscled off after a counterattack. A good counterattack. Credit to Estoril. They attacked very well that game. I think they're leading in goals in the second division right now. I think they're definitely a dangerous team for any first division team, but I think Sporting's quality should have been up there. But anyways, Andre Pinto, was this a one-off, or do you not think he's Sporting quality, or how did you view that game from Andre?
Yeah, just on that second goal, if that's not an own goal, I think that's a penalty. He's completely marking him from the wrong side. He's got his hands all over him, and then he puts it in the back of his own net. So terrible sequence. Oh, and on the first goal as well, yeah, as you said, he just got bodied, and then he gets back up and just gets beat bad, falls over. I guess basketball call that an ankle breaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Andre Pinto is pretty much, he's what I kind of expected. He came in, especially with Mathieu, who was a great center back, but he's getting up there in age. Even this season he's gotten hurt. He picks up these little injuries and he's out from time to time. So you kind of have to have at least one other center back who can step in there. And to be honest, Andre Pinto has stepped in there when he's been called upon in the past and done respectfully. Like I have no beef with Andre Pinto. As for talking, Andre Pinto is one of our two starting center backs, then I think we need to look at it more. But as far as Andre Pinto, backup center back, he's fine. But he did have a truly terrible game against Estoril.
Yeah, I agree. It was really bad from him, but I have liked him, especially stepping in for Mathieu. So and Patrick, I'll throw this next one off to you really quickly because it's in the comments of the chat right now. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Andre Pinto, should he be third or fourth choice center back, or do you think Marcelo should be ahead of him, or even recall a youngster on loan and maybe ship him off in January or next summer? How do you think of that?
No, I'd carry on with what Sporting has. I think Andre Pinto is a solid third option for Sporting to have, and he's proven that whenever he's come into slot alongside a Coates or a Mathieu, and he's done well. It's not easy for players in that sort of situation to just come into the team and perform, and he's been able to do that. And in fairness, I think this is probably his only truly bad performance in a Sporting shirt that I can remember. So every player is entitled to a bad performance. He's had one here. As you say, what can you expect? It's just the nature of football. I wouldn't be making many decisions off the back of that. I'm quite happy with him being third choice and Marcelo even being fourth. Obviously, we do have some interesting options coming up from the youth teams. You know, guys like João Rejuli and Tiago Jaló. Obviously, Demiral that we got rid of. Hopefully, he comes back. Who knows? But you know,
even
that one's
even Ivanildo. Sorry, Ivanildo from Moreirense
Yeah.
this weekend had a great game too.
Yeah, so there are names there, and obviously with the natural, if Sporting plan this carefully, you know, André Pinto is not extremely young, Mathieu's not young, Marcelo's not young, so with careful planning, I think there can be a nice succession there for these youngsters to come through. So I think with time, I think everything will even itself out. But for now, André Pinto is a very solid option for Sporting to have.
Yeah, I agree. Truthfully, I was just asking that question because there were some murmurs on Twitter, but no big deal. And you know, as soccer fans, football fans, we go crazy after one bad performance. The guy's already shit, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's always people that have their their most and least favorite players, no matter what. So
exactly. And Pinto isn't like a sort of like a standout player, anyways, right?
Yeah,
He's just
exactly.
a simple. He does his job at center back, and that's it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the big talking point at the end of this game was Peseiro sacking. I think I've seen every channel in Portugal for the last 5-6 days going on about Peseiro, whether it was rightly sacked or not, or not. Patrick, I'll throw this straight back to you before getting to Christian on his opinion. Was the sacking just or unjust? How do you view that?
I'll split this into two. So, was I surprised that Peseiro got sacked? Yeah, I was. I wasn't expecting Varandas to pull the plug on Peseiro just now. I think he probably would. I was expecting him to take another one or two poor performances like that for him to eventually go.
Agreed.
But do I think he should have gone? I would say so because that's the way the season was heading, and I think before much more damage was done to Sporting's position, and Sporting having no clear signs of progression, Sporting having a true lack of identity in the way that they play. I thought it's a decision that makes sense, and if Varandas has someone available who he feels can implement the kind of vision that he or we all want to see for Sporting and can do more with the ingredients that Peseiro had, then you know, why not execute that plan?
Yeah, no, for sure. And Christian, how did you view the sacking?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I was definitely a bit surprised as well, because every I'd say every game for the past month, there's been like rumors about it, but it hasn't actually happened. So that when I saw it was late at night because the game obviously kicked off at 9 o'clock there, and so this is probably early morning Portuguese hours. I was seeing this and I was like, "There's no way." But yeah, I give credit to Varandas. It was a proactive move. Do you really need to see us go to London and get battered? We probably would have lost this weekend, to be honest. Got a bit fortunate. You don't need to see much more. The team, has no identity, no playing style. He's not getting much out of the players. I mean, his appointment was a bit questionable to begin with, but I think it's good that we metaphorically speaking, stop the bleeding before it gets any worse, because it wasn't going to get any better. And our team isn't that bad at all. We're 2 points back of first place. There's still plenty to be played this season, and we're right in it. So why not? I actually think if we're going to waste a terrible performance and potentially being out of one of the competitions that we're in, Taça da Liga, I think we can all agree on, is the one that we care the least about. So if being out of the Taça da Liga is enough to get Peseiro out, then I'll take it, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree, and I know we're defending champs of that competition, but we got that first title under our belts. I don't think we necessarily need to fight for it again this season. I think, especially with how thin our squad is, definitely focus more on the league and doing well in Europa League and even Taça Portugal.
Even the cup, I would have much rather lost to Estoril than lost to Lourdes and been out of the Taça Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And just to quickly give my 2 cents on it too, I agree with the both of you. I was kind of shocked that Varandas did it when he did. I was personally wanting it when we lost 4-2 to Portimonense and had those 2 weeks of international break. I thought maybe that would have been the best time for him to do it. But I guess Varandas, and credit to him, it wasn't a terrible decision, I guess. He wanted to wait it out and see how bad or how good maybe he can turn things around. And, he's seen after the Arsenal game and after Estoril that not only are we losing games, but we're not even fighting to win these games because, against Estoril, they had, I think 8 or 9 chances to like our 2 or 3. After a pathetic performance like that, I agree with him, man. Like, Peseiro should have been sacked. I don't understand how people have been so up in arms about it in Portugal. It's wild to me. You just look at how we've been playing and look at the results. Look at and something that no commentator that I've seen is talking about in Portugal is look at how much muscular injuries we've had to deal with so far. Like within 3 months into the season, we had Bas Dost out for almost 2 months. We had Mathieu out for, I think, a month. Rafinha's currently out for, I think, about a month or so.
Wendell was out too as well.
Wendell was out that game as well. And he started for the first time. And before that, he played, I think, 5 or 10 minutes against Marítimo. And he already has a muscular injury. Ristovski also, I believe, left the game before. He left with a muscular injury. So just team management wise and all of that, I think it was, it was, if not the right time to go, I think the right time to go was 2 weeks ago or so. So I don't understand how people have been up in arms with Peseiro. I think if he was a manager that had maybe won us a title or two or done something to Sporting, maybe I would get the critiques. But no, I can't. I don't understand. And thank you for coming in, Peseiro, at a time that you did. I know we definitely needed someone to fill the void, but now with the president elected, I'm glad to see you gone, and I hope that this is finally the last time you're at Sporting, personally. All right, I think that's anything else anybody wants to add about the Estoril game before we move on to this weekend's game?
No.
You're good? Good. All right, cool. So this weekend we faced Santa Clara in Açores for the first time since 2003. Fun fact: that game was 1-1 with a goal from Tunitu, and young Cristiano Ronaldo was starting for us back in the days. But anyways, the starting 11, we had Renan Ribeiro back in net. We had Bruno Gaspar, Sebastian Coates, Jeremy Mathieu, and Lumor in defense. A surprise there from Lumor being there. We had Nani, Bataglia, Bruno Fernandes, and Marcos Jacunha, and Diaby in the midfield with Bas Dost leading the line. It was Thiago Fernandes' first game as Sporting coach. Patrick, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of the game?
Well, it was an ugly game to match the weather and the conditions. I think Sporting struggled a bit in that 4-4-2 with the numbers that Santa Clara had in midfield at times. And really, it was just a game that I think Sporting perhaps tried to play to the weather a bit too much. You saw in the first half, whenever Sporting got the chance, that they'd be firing at Santa Clara's goal, and sometimes with danger. But that was soon sussed, and the opportunities weren't quite coming for them. And obviously, to score a shot from range, it takes some sort of skill and luck in between as well. So it's something difficult to pull off. But that just seemed to be the idea that Sporting came in to that game. And Santa Clara had other ideas, and they were the ones who took the lead.
Yeah.
Against the wind.
Yeah.
So it spelled a bit of trouble really for Sporting coming into the second half. Should the wind maintain its strength and go against us. We all remember last season's game against Estoril and how problematic that was.
Yeah.
With the strong winds there. But I don't know if the wind calmed down or anything. But Sporting picked their moments. Obviously, we had that penalty, which, in my opinion, was a penalty, and the red card that followed also, was just. I don't know what the Santa Clara player is thinking, doing that, but he certainly cost his team a result, in my opinion. Dost, very cool-headed, manages to slot at the second bite of the cherry, really. After asking him to repeat the penalty. And another great little cameo from Jovan Cabral coming off the bench. It seems, I'm not so sure about Jovan when he starts, but when he comes off the bench, he definitely has a very positive impact on the game, and he was on hand to assist Acuna, who, in my opinion, certainly in everyone's opinion, he was man of the match. Having won the award, and he had a very interesting game coming off the right flank, which is something that perhaps Sporting, I know we all say that Acuna is a player who should play left back and all that, but right wing might not be a bad option for him as well. He's as we know, a winger, and sometimes when you put wingers on opposite flanks, they can really offer something interesting. And I think Acuna, with the potential that he has to strike from range and to cut in on that left foot, can at times offer something interesting for Sporting on the right flank. So it was nice to see him put in that performance. Good for Sporting to have taken 3 points out of a very tricky place to play. Nasty conditions, and I believe only Rio have had a positive result against Santa Clara. So, it's a decent result, and hopefully it'll be a nice springboard for whoever takes over the club this week or whenever it may be.
Yeah, and quickly before I throw it back to Chris, why is it, do you think, that Jovan is a different player coming off the bench compared to when he starts? Do you think it's because he's getting at tired legs, or is it just a sort of different mentality maybe?
It could be, and there's certainly I think he probably needs to work on his game management a little bit as a starter, because sometimes the way that you play and the way that you envisage moves coming off perhaps suit you more when you come off the bench than rather when you start, because obviously you are getting that tired legs and whatnot. Perhaps that there's certain facets of Jovan Cabral's game that he needs to tamper with and adjust. And he's a young player and a pacey player, so I think with time we'll see him start to make the right decisions as and when a player like that should deem it fit, and he'll mature into a very nice player. But yeah, that's the only thing that I can see at the moment. It's just he's a little bit how can I say this? Perhaps a little bit too plain to come in straight from the start. But if you bring him off the bench, the game's been shaken up a lot more already. So and that's when he can really create damage with space whenever space is afforded to him. So I think that's his role for now, and it's a good role to be in as long as he's clocking up those minutes and goals and assists, picking up confidence and space in the team. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. I should have maybe asked this before, but Patrick or Chris, are any of you two Açorian by chance?
I'm not.
No? Oh, okay, never mind then. Anyways, Chris.
A lot of Azorians, though. I know a lot of Azorians, but I'm not Azorian.
Yeah, are you from Toronto? I always forget.
No, I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, there's a lot of Açorians there too, eh?
And I went to college in Massachusetts, so like Fall River, Mass, all that stuff. All
Yeah. There's a lot of Açorians here too. So shout out to them, man. I'm actually happy for them to have Santa Clara back in the first division. But anyways, Chris, your thoughts on the game? Give me your two cents.
Yeah, obviously, it was huge with Benfica losing and Rio Ave dropping points today to get back some points on two of our four rivals, because I guess we have four rivals now, because it's not a 3-horse race anymore, it's a 5-horse race, which I think is good for the league. So
agreed.
No complaints there. But yeah, it's huge to get some points back, to get within one game of the top, and Porto play Braga, next weekend. So, 1, 2, or both of them are going to drop some points. So we have another opportunity to gain, even more ground back, get into, first, potentially, or tied for first if they draw, or to second. So yeah, the result was huge. I'm going to be honest. I really didn't think that, we were going to be able to turn the game around just the way that it was going. At first, they scored the goal. We had looked, dangerous at times in the first 30 minutes. But they kind of, got the last, bit of momentum at the end of the first half, and they were able to score. On an unrelated note, I'm not really sure what is going to happen as far as who's going to play goalkeeper, because the ball kind of floated up there. Renan stayed on his line. He probably should have come out, especially going against the wind. That ball was just floating up there for a while. I thought he should have come out and made a play on it. All of Salin and Renan both have had their moments this season, positively and negatively. And then Viviano, who's supposed to be the starter, hasn't even traveled with the team yet or been in the squad yet. So I don't know what the deal is there. It's going to be interesting what new coach coming in does with, the goalkeeping situation. I thought Lumor played, pretty well. I thought Jefferson was probably the worst player on the field against Estoril the game before. So, if Lumor can play and be solid back there at left back, I think that's huge for us. It's pretty incredible that he hasn't even gotten his chance yet. And it took a new coach coaching in his first game, and he's in the 11, and he played well. So, I'm not sure why he hasn't seen a single minute at all this season. Losing Battaglia obviously sucks. We're going to have to, plug a hole there, maybe go to the market in January. But yeah, I give Thiago Fernandes and I give the team a lot of credit fighting back in that game on the road. And as Pat mentioned, some pretty poor conditions, rainy, super windy. That took some balls, and it was definitely a ballsy performance in the second half. Definitely we got sketchy towards the end there. Santa Clara had several chances that could have easily found their way into the net, but they didn't. And we got out of there with the 3 points, and it's huge.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you brought it up, and I was actually going to ask it as well. But do you like Renan? Was he at fault for the goal? Should he have come up more? Do you give him sort of a bit of leeway because that wind was ridiculous? How do you see that, Chris? And then I'll throw it to Patrick.
Yeah, I don't necessarily fault him for the goal, but after watching it, on replay, it seems like he probably should have come out and tried to make a play on the ball, punch it out, do something. He just kind of was rooted to his goal line, and then that just, it was obviously poor marking at the back post, mix up between the left back and the center back. He was kind of wide open there, but I don't necessarily think it was Renan's fault, but I really am not sure who I want to start in goal anymore, because Salon. I don't think Salon he's a great backup. He's a good mentor. He's a good translator, as we see pretty often. Good to have in the locker room. Don't know if he should start. Renan. Peseiro put him in there because he'd won the job in practice. I don't necessarily think I've been convinced by his performances. He's been fine. and I'm just confused as everyone else is what the Viviano situation is. So yeah, I think that a new coach coming in is going to have his work cut out for him, figuring out which of those three you're going to start.
Yeah, I think also mainly like the confusion between Renan and Salan is that for the most part, whenever Renan Ribeiro does play, he doesn't have too many shots on goal. There's a few like here or there, but then when compared to when Salan plays, like if you think about the Benfica game, even this Estoril game, he had to make about a good 7-8 saves. Whereas Renan, I don't think I've seen him save more than like 1 or 2 shots a game. So I think that's what causes also the confusion there. And Patrick, again, same question to you. Should Renan have done better? Should he have been more aggressive? Or do you not really fault him because the wind was just really ridiculous?
Yeah, I'd cut him some slack because obviously a player, in the way that he thinks about football and all that, he's pre-programmed to just think of the flight of the ball and whatnot under normal conditions, and with the wind being so extreme as it was, perhaps Renan is expecting that ball to travel a lot more than it does, and the wind just keeps the ball still in the air perfectly for Zé Manuel to strike a goal. So it's one of those, really. I think he'll probably look at that and think, maybe I could have done better, but it's an easy one to misjudge with the conditions. So I'd cut him some slack. But, it is a valid point. I think even outside of that, I think Renan, just like Salan, are goalkeepers that obviously have their good moments, but can equally have their bad moments. And I think Viviano is probably similar as well, despite me thinking he's probably, as we all think, is probably the main man who should be number one at Sporting right now. So we do have 3 goalkeepers who can obviously, can obviously turn out to be great shot stoppers on the night, but there are weaknesses in each of their games. So again, it will be interesting to see with a new manager, new ideas and tendencies, to see what kind of players Sporting start to see creeping into the team, because Lumord is another one who in my opinion had a great game against Santa Clara, one of the few to have a very positive impact on our display, and he's hardly had a kick in a Sporting shirt, so he's another one who needs to be looked at. And there may be others, as we mentioned already in this pod, Vendel, perhaps 1 or 2 youngsters like Miguel Luis, Daniel Bragança. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, so I'll give this next question to Chris, because Patrick's already given his 2 cents on it. The penalty, for some reason, actually, what do you think of the penalty? Was it a clear penalty to you? Do you think there is some leeway to argue it, maybe, or how did you view that?
I thought it was a penalty. I thought he came through his back as he's about to strike the ball. It's an easy one to miss in real time, I think, or it's an easy one if you're just looking at it live, to not be sure, I guess. Obviously, he didn't even have to go and look at it. I mean, I've lost a bit of confidence in the VAR as of recently, but overall, I still think it's good for the game. So I mean, just the fact that he didn't even go to double check means that the guys upstairs were like, "Yeah, you made the right decision. It's a PK." So yeah, I mean, obviously, there's our rivals and Twitter and everything. People like to chirp a little bit, but they're just looking for something. It's a penalty kick.
Yeah, and the red card as well.
I don't even know what even happened. Yeah. I still haven't even seen it. Did he say something to the ref? Is that what happened?
I don't know. I'm assuming so.
There was some sarcastic applause, and he just didn't stop when the referee was telling him to stop, and obviously it landed him in some trouble.
They were protesting a lot, but even before the PK. There was this game stopped for a good, 5 minutes, I think, 4 minutes. They were all around the referee, and I guess he didn't stop. So toss.
I found that annoying from the game too, especially the first half. That first half was super physical. I think of the 45 minutes, I think it was only like 20 minutes really played. But anyways, final question that I have, and then we'll move on to Twitter because Twitter actually has a lot of questions about this game. Santa Clara, how far do you think they can go, Patrick?
We'll see. I don't know. It's been an interesting season so far with a lot of the teams up top, even dropping points, and it will just be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, Santa Clara have the disadvantage that they do come from an island, so the travelling to and from mainland Portugal in a season that we're still practically at the start of it. I think that might weigh on their shoulders a bit come the end of the season, and it could be natural to see them drop off a little bit more into mid-table. But for now, they look very impressive. Perhaps the most impressive sides outside of the usual suspects. I think they could go far. I think they'd be happy with a top half finish. So certainly, I reckon with the start that they've had, I think that's what they should be aiming for.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think their attack is good enough to at least make mid-table. I agree. Chris, quickly off to you because I actually forgot there was actually one more. And then I'll also ask Patrick the same thing because he sort of brought it up earlier. So it seems that we've thrown Acuna off in the right wing because of our shortage of wingers currently. We do have Diaby and maybe Carlos Mané, but it's clear to see that maybe they're not first choice per se. I'd say maybe the only first choice wingers we definitely have as of right now is Nani, and then Acuna probably, and then maybe Jovan off. But like we said, maybe he's better off the bench. But in your opinion, do you think we should, for the time being at least, stick with how we've been playing at least the Santa Clara game with Acuna up on the wing, or do you think maybe we should move him back into left back and give that spot to Nani and Jovan or Diaby or even Carlos Mané? Like, what do you think of that? How do you think we should line up with that?
Yeah, I go back and forth on Acuna a lot. He's had some great games out wide. He's had some poor games. And the same thing when he plays left back. Sometimes he plays really well back there, and sometimes he's not that great. So honestly, I think his more natural position is on the wing. I think that it's good to have a player that can slide in there. He's kind of like the new Bruno Cesar, I guess. He can play out wide. He can play outside back. He can play in the middle in a pinch if you need him to. But yeah, hopefully, I think that, Lumor, he hasn't done anything to lose any opportunities for sure. He thought he played well. And I think that if we can have Lumor, play as our starting left back, and then have Acuna maybe as our second choice left back, and then just pushes Jefferson away because I don't think he should be anywhere near the field at this point. So it's definitely good to have that added bit of depth. I think because they didn't even use him at all. I'm not sure why. But yeah, I guess to directly answer the question, I think Acuna is probably better on the wing. But it's always good to have those utility players in the team.
Yeah, for sure. And Patrick, back to you. I think again, like with Rafinha currently out, because I think there's I think we'd all agree that with Rafinha and Nani healthy, those are our starting wingers. Do you think we should have Acuna up on the wing, like Chris said, or do you think maybe a few games here or there we can have him at left back with Diaby starting?
Well, I liked what I saw from Diaby against Boavista, and obviously there's also the option that we can just go for Jovan Cabral on the right, which perhaps suits him. I'm not sure if it suits him better than the left wing, but it'll be nice to see Jovan start a few more games and see if he can shake off that myth that we just spoke about. But I guess for the immediate future. And if we look at the Santa Clara game, our best players on that day were Acuna and they were Lumor. And Lumor played obviously best at left back and Acuna from the right. So I guess if you look at that performance, it would probably make sense to head into the next game and keep those two positives on side. So, I can see Acuna starting at right wing again, possibly. But if we're talking long term, obviously, without Rafinha, because Rafinha, in my opinion, would start. I would like to see Sporting toy about a bit more with Jovan or a Diaby, particularly if 4-3-3 is the way to go. I think Diaby and Jovan can really shine.
Yeah, and I agree with you actually as well. All right, going to Twitter real quick because it also mentions the game yesterday, and I think one of the biggest questions that we all have came from M Paiva 7, Matt Paiva, and it's in regards to Bataglia. As we know, he suffered an ACL tear, which sucks. I can speak from personal experience. That sucks. But he asks, with Bataglia out for the remainder of the season, should we look into getting a number 6 in January? Stick with Goudelli and Acuna in those spots? And also, out of all the academy prospects, what do you guys feel is ready to make the jump into the first team and be a regular? Let's go more for the Bataglia for the first two questions. Should we go out in January, look for a number 6, or do you think maybe Goudelli or a sort of true center defensive mid formation with Goudelli and Acuna, or even have Petrovic playing the 6? Chris, I'll go with you first. What do you think our Bataglia solution should be?
You almost forgot about the man that cannot be killed off. He survives every coach somehow and playing way too much this season. So yeah, if our options are, I think Goudelli actually, I don't think he's hit his full potential yet this season.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely good. I think he can play in that spot. But yeah, the second that Petrovic starts getting more and more minutes, I definitely think that we're gonna have to look to that spot, in January. But yeah, it sucks to lose Bataglia. I also don't think Bataglia was having his best season, especially compared to last season. But he's still a solid CDM that you can count on in that 6th spot. So yeah, I think that what's going to end up happening, at least for the short term, is that they're going to put Goudelli in that spot. But I would not be shocked if Petrovic ended up starting there. And I also don't know as far as we have 2 games this week. They're both very important. How we're going to diversify the team a little bit to get people rested, but also not completely rotate the team, so that because we were going to London to play Arsenal. We have to have a strong team to even have a chance in that game. But at the same time, the league is super important now, and especially this weekend with Porto and Braga playing each other. It'd be great to get 3 more points in the bag. So it's going to be interesting. And I wouldn't be shocked if Petro starts at least one of those 2 games.
Yeah, agreed. And Patrick, how about you? Do you think Goudelli, Petrovic, a different formation, or even the academy, the youngsters from the academy, like Bragança can step in? How do you view that?
Surprisingly, I don't know whether it's just the quality of football that we've seen under Poseidon, but I don't think Petrovic has been that bad. But regardless, he's far from the quality that a team like Sporting requires.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I don't think he played too bad as a 6. At least he's not.
Yeah,
he's all right. He's done all right.
Even like if we were to compare him and Bataglia in that position, I think obviously Bataglia as a player is much better. Yeah. But I liked the stuff that Petrovic did under Poseidon more than what Bataglia did. In terms of construction and that sort of that sort of side to the game, because that's what Sporting at the moment is lacking. Is, since Williams gone, Sporting doesn't have that. And in response to that, I think the only player outside of Petrovic that can provide anything close to what William does is Gudeli, or maybe Vendel if someone's brave enough to try him there. But Gudeli is probably the best answer to that. We do have obviously Storaro. We can't forget about him.
What is up with that, man?
I have no idea. I don't know
where he is, but apparently we've got.
He's still recovering from his injury that was supposed to be solved in October. I have no idea.
Yeah. So, but again, Storaro isn't a number 6 like we've come to expect. Like William, he's very much like Battaglia. He's someone who'll be in there. He'll run between the lines and try to stamp out the danger by being destructive. So in terms of that number 6 profile that we had with William, we don't really have one like that. We could, of course, look to the youth team. As I mentioned, Daniel Bragança might be an interesting player. Or we go back into the market and find a player who gives us greater assurances at doing that sort of job. Because obviously Gudeli is not a natural number 6. He's someone who probably likes to play off the 6 and play a little bit more advanced. And Sporting has a number of players that are in the same position. So there's a clear vacancy in that area that Sporting needs filled. So with Battaglia injured and nobody really knowing of the whereabouts of Storaro, then perhaps Sporting needs to start thinking a little bit more about what they need, a little bit more about the future, and head to the market in January.
Yeah, and to answer the second part of his question, out of all the academy prospects, which do you guys feel is ready to make the jump into the first team and be a regular? I'll throw out some names real quickly of players or academy prospects that have been thrown into training. So, like we mentioned, there's Bragança. There's also Thierry Correa, who's a right back and currently with Ristovski out for probably a month. If we look at other muscular injuries, that can be a decent addition, or at least a decent backup. There's Alves Balde, a winger. We have Miguel Luis, obviously, and then also Bruno Page. Out of those 5 that I mentioned, and maybe even others that you might be thinking of, Chris, who do you think has the best chance of making a stake for first team? Not even first team football, but at least being on like the bench and coming into the game, sort of like Jovan.
Yeah, for sure. I think Balde, I've seen some like under 21 games, stuff like that. He could play up top too as well, right?
Yeah.
He definitely, I think, has a decent chance. We're not that deep up there. Obviously, it's essentially, just Bas Dost and Montero. Diaby seems like he's going to be playing wing mostly now, but I guess he could play up there. But I was much more impressed by his performances on the wing than up top. To be honest, I haven't really been that impressed with Bruno Gaspar as well. I mean, I know that he's just pretty much just a backup right back, but he's had to play a lot more with Ristovski being out. Ristovski was one of those players who, everyone loves, him, his personality, what he brings to the team, but he was drawing a little bit of critique for some of his performances earlier on in the season. And I didn't necessarily agree with those people too much, but, now that we have Bruno Gaspar back there for an extended period of time, I wonder if those people are, somewhat rethinking that, because Ristovski's clearly better. Clearly more dynamic, attacking. But can't say I've seen Thierry Correa play, too much. But I definitely think that he could warrant a chance back there for sure, especially the state of the team right now.
Yeah, agreed. And Pat, quickly to you, who do you think out of the youngsters would have a better chance of?
The 3 names that I would probably keep an eye on are, as you say, Bragança, Miguel Luis, and Thierry Correa. I don't think any of them would be starters unless a new manager takes a massive liking to them and throws them straight in. But I think certainly sniffing around match day squads, 18-man squads. I think they could potentially be there, especially Thierry Correia. Who knows if there's an injury to someone like Bruno Gaspar, who, contrarily to Christian, I think against Santa Clara and Boavista, I thought he was all right. If he happens to get injured, then Correia is straight in, and perhaps he lucks out and knuckles down a spot, because it is a position that I don't think is entirely secure. Ristovski, we know he's a very good player, and he was a very good backup to Pacini last year. But this year, much like a few players, I think his output has dropped. Bruno Gaspar isn't quite the same Bruno Gaspar that we saw at Guimarães a couple of seasons back. So if luck shines on Thierry Correia's plate, then maybe he can make an impression. But those are the three that I would say have the best chance: Thierry, Miguel Luis, and Daniel Bragança. I like Elves Balde as well. He's a very interesting player, but I think for the moment that Sporting's in, I think they're stacked right now with wingers and strikers. It's a little bit difficult to see that avenue.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next question comes in from Rita Pascual at Pascual1906 on Twitter. She asks, what's your opinion about Tiago Fernandes, our interim manager, obviously? Do you see think he could be a good option for us, or do you see him coaching us in the future? Chris, I'll give this one off to you. What did you think of him from his first game for the main team, at least?
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit early to tell, but I did like what I saw. I did like that he mixed the team up a little bit. Mm-hmm. He gave Miguel Luis his debut. He gave Lumor's first minutes of the season. That takes a bit of balls to do that, and I respect that. He said that he wants to help Sporting, as much as he can. So perhaps a new manager coming in will have something to think about as far as keeping him on the staff. But yeah, I have no problems with the man, right? After one game, he's definitely going to have, his work cut out for him on Thursday, and likely this weekend, because I don't think that we're going to have a new coach by then. And even if we do, he'll have 1 day to 2 days to orient the team. I think he's going to have, at least one more week. So I'm interested to see what he's got up his sleeve to take on Arsenal on the road, which could be, our hardest game of the season, on paper at least. And he's in charge. So I like what I saw in against Santa Clara, and I'm actually looking forward to see what else he can do.
Yeah. I think the only thing, or the big thing that I liked from him was how proactive he was, especially with the substitutions. Of course, the 11 was intriguing as well, because Lumora left back instead of Jefferson, and all of that I thought was a great move. But then, again, like towards the substitutions, obviously the Battaglia one was forced, but he wasted no time in introducing Jovan Cabral to the game, and then as well as Miguel Luis, though Miguel Luis maybe didn't have enough time to really do much during the game, and at that point Santa Clara was really going for the second goal. I didn't mind him. I certainly hope he's a part of the staff, because last season he was with the B team. Though he did poor with the B team, at least he knows some of the youngsters and has worked with them. So I think for whoever comes in the future, I think he'd be a great help. And and maybe who knows, one day he'll be coaching us. I certainly don't think maybe let me ask you guys this. Patrick, I'll throw it off to you. If he gets a result against Arsenal, should we keep him?
No, I wouldn't keep him, no.
Yeah, I agree.
Based on the game against Santa Clara, it's a difficult game to judge because obviously he's come in as manager into a difficult situation. He's got to pick up the pieces, and as we've mentioned, the game was so difficult with the conditions and all that. So it's itself is a difficult game for us to judge him on, and although I can merit him on his changes, because his changes effectively, in my opinion, are what decided the game and turned it around for Sporting, with the inclusion of Lamor, who was very positive, bringing on Jovan Cabral to the left and Acuna to the right. The combinations for the goal, the winning goal, came from those areas. His fingerprints are all over the win in one way. But then we can't also forget that he was the assistant manager of Portugal, so he had his input on what essentially was a failed stint at the job for Portugal. So we have to take all of this into account, and we'll see what he does against Arsenal. And you might well do very well against them. But for me, I think Sporting needs to really embark on something a little bit more substantial, a little bit more comforting for the fans. And although someone like Marcel Kaiser is a relatively unknown name for us, he is someone who I think will come in with a clear plan and a very interesting project. And I think that is the route that Sporting should take. Someone like Diego Fernandes, I think, would be too much of a gamble.
Yeah, I agree. Next question comes from Zé Pereira, who's also in our chat right now. Shout out to you, Zé. If Santa Clara keep pushing for a second goal, would Sporting have been able to make the comeback? They didn't wake up until the second half, and Santa Clara were defending the whole time. Quickly to answer that, Patrick, what are your thoughts? Do you think if they nick the goal, would we be able to recover from that?
It's difficult to say. Obviously, as a small team, you sort of think you're winning. Let's protect this, because even if they do protect it and Sporting end up going up the other end and scoring, they still got a draw to hold on to. So, it's that mentality of a small team. But they've got to live with what they got. Equally, Santa Clara could have pushed for a second, and then Sporting equalise with greater ease. It's just football's about decisions, and obviously in hindsight it's very easy to say, "Oh, we should have done this and should have done that." But we have to look at it in real time, and in real time, I guess for Santa Clara, what made sense was to try and shut up shop.
Yeah, for sure. And then quickly, Chris, also, what did you think? If they got a second, do you think we'd be able to come back?
Is that to make it 2-0?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's at 2-0. I don't think it's too much at the end of the game, because at the end of the game it would have been too hard anyways.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely would have had a mountain to climb. I definitely think getting the PK helped a lot. So if the same thing were to happen, and we'd get the PK, and then we would have Bastos scored the PK, and it was 2-1. I think it would have been a mad dash towards the finish, and we would have had a chance. But I definitely think that we were helped a lot by getting the PK. I mean, obviously, it was a PK, but getting a PK to get back into the game is definitely helpful, especially when you're trying to turn a result around, and not just I don't think necessarily that a draw in that game, with all circumstances considered, new coach, everything on the road in the Azores, terrible weather, down a goal. You consider all those things. If we walked out of there with a tie, it wouldn't have been the worst thing ever. Santa Clara is a good team, but yeah, the PK definitely helped get the comeback restarted. So yeah, it is tough to answer that directly, because you don't know what would have happened after that. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. All right, I'll go to the next one from Lauren, also known as Chip on Twitter. quick answer to this one because it's not too hard. Who's your player of the season so far? With us being a third of the way through the league season, what do you think our chances of winning the league is? I'll start first. I think our best player has probably been Nani. I'll give it to Nani, and then our chances are slim. I don't think there's a lot of pressure towards this team to win the league. So, which is great in itself. But I think if we finish, third is expected. If we finish something like second, I think it'll be a good accomplishment considering everything that went on. Patrick, quickly to you, player of the season so far, and our chances of winning the league.
Well, he hasn't really played that much of late, but I do think on his day, I think the best player has been Rafinha for me.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I've been more impressed with him. And as for Sporting's chances with the season, I think we're still very much where we were at the start of the season. I think the likes of Porto and Benfica remain the favourites. I think Braga have increased their odds. Sporting are there. I think they still have a small chance to take the title. Obviously, the situation around the club has been very difficult, and we're still digesting much of it. But we still have scope to make a recovery and to grow into something special towards the end of it. So we still have a small chance to pluck a few surprises out of the bag.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, quickly to you, player of the season and our chances of winning the league.
For the sake of picking a different one than you, Danny, I think Danny definitely has a fair candidacy for that award. I'm going to go with Montero.
Sure.
I think he slid in well when it was needed. He scored some big goals, and he led the line. I think that last season, this has been a much better Montero as opposed to last season. He had to play for an extended period of time with Bas Dost being out a couple months. So yeah, I think his performances have been really admirable. As far as our chances of winning the league, I get a little optimistic always. I've been optimistic the past 17 years, but I don't think our chances are incredibly bad. They're probably as good as they ever have been. They're definitely not worse. Porto and Benfica haven't really done incredible things this season. They've had their poor games as well. They've dropped points. Just judging from the past couple seasons, maybe 3 years ago, the teams in the title race, they didn't really drop any points. They lost a couple games the whole season. All of the big three, have already lost 1 or 2 games. Braga's still right up there. Rio Ave is still up there. I think that if a non-big three team is going to win the league, this seems like the best year, if ever, for their chances of that happening. It's going to be really interesting to see what Braga does at the Dragão this coming weekend.
Especially with no European competition for them too.
If this is as good as year forever for them.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that we have bad chances. We're only 2 points back. I feel like we easily could be 7 points back. So I'm holding out hope. A new coach coming in. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. And then the final question from Twitter, from Kevin1 Narujo 6 on Twitter. He asks, who would be your manager of choice? And of course, that's realistically, or else I'd say Pep Guardiola. And what do you think should be the formation and tactics we play? Patrick, I'll start off with you. Who do you think who would you prefer our manager to be?
Well, it's difficult, and obviously, if you had asked me this time last week, I would have said Arsene Wenger, who I love dearly for his time at Arsenal.
Yeah.
Simply because he's a huge character within football, and the media attention that he'd attract to Sporting, as well as respect
From the players,
and even Sporting as a prospect for young players, I think all of that would skyrocket. And he is a good manager. I think obviously he had his difficulties in his final years at Arsenal, but he's still a very good manager who plays an expansive brand of football, which we all want to see. And someone who pays close attention to the youngsters. I think he would have been a really nice fit for Sporting and a nice change of pace. So he would have been, my dream appointment within, within our realistic probabilities.
Right.
But for now, I'm happy to settle for this idea of Marcel Kaiser coming in. I think it could be an interesting appointment. We'll see what happens with his club at Al Jazeera and whether Sporting can really break through with paying his release clause. But I think that's a nice appointment for Sporting. More so for the project that he presents. He's someone who will make sure that Sporting plays again an expansive brand of football, 4-3-3, possession based, and ensuring that Sporting's dominant, which Sporting needs to be. I don't think we really had that under Pozzedal. And again, it's that thing of Sporting having a clear idea every time they set out onto the pitch, a way that they're going to play. Sporting, any team who aspires to do anything in any season needs to have a clear idea as to how they're going to play. We didn't have that with Pozzedal, so we need to really find something that we can get behind and charge through our season. And I think Kaiser presents a very interesting project, both short term and long term. But he is someone who we all as fans will need to be quite patient with, because it's as you saw with Guardiola in his first season, to get a team to play really well under possession based formation and tactics, it takes time. It takes time to perfect that sort of stuff. But he's my man for now.
Yeah. And Chris, what do you think? Who should be our next coach? And do you even rate Marcel Kaiser highly?
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about him in the past couple of days, since we've been starting to become really heavily linked to him. I think that the one thing that kind of scares me a bit about him is that he was fired after only 17 games at Ajax, because and a lot of people credit that to his system not being received and implemented quickly enough, and they just kind of pulled the trigger because it wasn't happening. If he comes in here, what patience level will the fans have if we're not getting results? If he comes in and if it's not looking good, obviously the Portuguese media is going to jump all over him. So he's going to have to, be able to respond to all those factors. If things don't go well from the start, where he's coming in and he's pretty much expected to keep pursuing the title. If the gap just starts to grow and grow and grow, people are gonna lose their patience with him pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if his system takes a while to implement. That makes me a bit nervous. But I do like his project. I do think he's a good coach. Obviously he didn't get his fair shake in Amsterdam, so we'll see. As far as other coaches that I've liked, I think Silas from Bolnis is a great coach.
Yep.
He's probably my top choice managers in the Portuguese league. Miguel Cardoso kind of scares me just because of the performances he had this season with Nantes. They're in the relegation zone. He obviously had a good couple seasons with Rio Ave there, but his most recent project was pretty much a failure, I would say. So. Paulo Sousa, another, good coach, I'd rate pretty decently high. It seems like there's going to be a salary issue there, so that seems like that deal's fallen through. But yeah, I mean, if we do end up with Kaiser, I'm interested to see what he brings to the team. And as Pat touched on, he does have a distinct style that he likes to play. And I don't think that Pizarro had any specific style or character or, things that he was trying to implement. He just amorphous blob of tactics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't necessarily think that'll be a bad thing. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out in the coming week.
Yeah, I agree. And lastly, for me to give my 2 cents before we take off, I agree with the both of you. I think Kaiser is an interesting appointment if it's true, because we've heard every rumor under the sun now, whether he's coming or not coming.
There's been like 10 coaches linked to the team.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wouldn't mind Kaiser. And I was saying this to a buddy of mine yesterday. I don't think Sporting necessarily has real pressure this season to truly win anything. Let's be honest, especially after the summer we had and just electing a president a few months ago, from the start of the season. So if he comes in and he can implement his system well, and we can see clear improvements in terms of style of play, in terms of academy players being bled in, maybe in terms mainly in terms of style of play. We don't necessarily have to win games, but as long as we're not getting embarrassed by Portimonense, if it's because my only thing with that free attacking football is how vulnerable we can be on the counterattacks if we happen to lose points here and there. But we clearly see the improvements, then I'm okay with that. Give him that project. I'm cool with giving him a January, and then if all goes well and all isn't too bad, giving him a proper go next season. Because from what I've read and from other opinions I've gauged from reading about him, is that he didn't get enough time at Ajax, and really what he did in the second team of Ajax and Ajax bis and sort of like their Sporting B, was that he did like super incredible things with such a young group to get them in second in the second tier of Dutch football. If I had to pick, I'd probably go for like Chris said, Silas. I've been impressed with him since he's come into Belenenses. A true tactician. I've seen Belenenses play with 3 at the back, or 5 at the back, depending how you want to look at it. I've seen them play with 4 at the back. I've seen them play with a lone striker. I've seen them play with 2 strikers. And even in terms, because I know there's maybe some doubts with gaining with players in the transfer market. I've seen Belenenses get players like Nathan and Freddie, who were really pivotal pieces for them last season. And Nathan on loan from Chelsea, he's a great player. We've seen what he did against Benfica and even Porto last season. So if I had to pick, I'd probably go for Silas. But I'm not moaning at Marcel Kaiser. I think he's a decent appointment, and given the right time and the right tools, can be a massive success at Sporting. I think, at least. I wouldn't mind, a non-Portuguese manager. I see a lot of people complaining about that, but I don't necessarily think that's a big issue. All right. Before we take off, guys, is there anything you want to say that you haven't said about either game or about, the world of Sporting?
No.
No, Chris, you good too?
Yeah, I think I'm good as well.
All right, guys. I just want to apologize really quick. I unfortunately was mad busy this weekend. Couldn't catch many modality games. I actually don't know of much that happened. I think we won.
I think futsal won.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that our futsal team won, but I'm not gonna. If I could give everybody a recap right now, it'd be half-assed, and I'd rather just do a proper one on Twitter. So if it's not tonight, then tomorrow, be out for the look at that. Be looking out for that. I can't talk right now. Be looking out for that, because I'll give you guys a quick recap of what happened this weekend in modalities. From me, Patrick, and Chris, we all wish you guys a great night. We hope Sporting beats Arsenal somehow on the weekend. Or sorry, not on the weekend, on Thursday. And yeah, looking forward to that. Anyways, later, guys. Ciao. Viva Sporting.